Slavery is back. In fact, it was never abolished. The 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery, except in prison. At the current rate of incarceration, by the year 2010, the majority of all African American men between 18 and 40 will be in prison, the state as their captor.
It's going to take people who are willing to fight, not people who want to negotiate with the enemy.
Prison, prison, prison.
The pits of life containment, where reform and discipline are labeled enslavement. From rites of passage to stacking the raiments, been sporting the iron bars, just gracing the pavement. It's just like cavemen from the pages of myth, cohabitating in darkness while we wallow in filth. Generations of jewels will trickle down to abyss as blood stains these prisons like the pyramid glyphs. Guilty or innocent agents of government treat our hoods like picking grounds. Schools to tenement, all sagging uniform as thugs. They represent racial stereotypes, a profile for the oppressed. When you witness genocide every day, you get the hint that the ghettos are cold like a lab experiment. As young women and men street hustle before they 10, graduating from juvenile halls and up the river to the...
I pour libations for the earth, which provides us with nourishment, our daily living, our life, our resources, natural resources that keep us healthy and alive. I pour libations for the wind, which helps transmit and transport our pollination as we go and educate and touch our community. I pour libations for the fire that helps cleanse our soul. And when we are feeling at unrest, this is what helps us get through it. And I pour libations for the water. So that way the water is our vehicle, is not only a form of liquid God, but it is also what helps us travel. Even through rough waters, we can still sustain and navigate through our troubling times.
For libation for the elders, for the ancestors that have went before us, that they show us, they educate us, they protect us. I pour libations for the elders that are here, that currently help us to pursue and to train us in the ways of today. I pour libation for the counselors that speak into our spirit, our souls, and our daily events. I pour libations for the warriors that stand ready to defend in all areas of life. Libations be rendered.
Be rendered. Ashe.
Ashe.
What interesting times we live in, God.
Man.
Oh, what interesting times. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, gods and goddesses, welcome to Silverback Gorilla Sessions with brother that sits in the back of the room and Mwali Mu, aka M Squared. Mwali Mu Ma'at. How y'all doing out there? Before we get started, I want to give thanks and praise to Almighty for bringing us here today so that way we can educate and remain in contact with our brothers and sisters that are raising young brothers to become silverback gorillas. So thank you very much. If you could do us a favor, if you guys can press that like button and hit the subscribe, so that way and the notification button, because we go live every 2 weeks. So on Thursday, every other Thursday, first and third Thursday, we go live with Silverback sessions. And what we end up doing, what we do is we're just bringing some information to you that will help you guide yourself through today's trying times. I know you guys are like, what's going on? Why is he rocking back and forth? Well, that's because under my desk, I got a foot massager. So I be trying to get keep my thing right while we're doing this work, because this work is no punk. So if you see me rocking and rolling, it's not because I'm swerving, although I just might. I got my foot massager going, and we're doing this work. So thank you very much. Brother by the back of the dough, man. Oh man, what? Man, this week has been a trip.
Dude. Well, remember, we got Mercury rising in its peak of all things that are dealing with us, and we forgot about it when we first started conversating. And when we touched on it the other day, we have seen all of the enemies, the energies. We've seen the blessings. We've seen how the ancestors have protected us. We've seen some stuff in the last couple days that are proving what we've been talking about. You know, just being able to let us know that we're on track and that we are transmitting at the right frequency at all times.
At all, even in our subconscious times.
Especially in our
subconscious times. Yo, this week, there were things that I knew I needed to do. I had my mind focused on it, and I was like, I'm feeling this energy about moving forward, even professionally and personally. You know, professionally, always, you know, as an event specialist, what's going to happen to my industry and my workload? You know what I mean? What's really going to happen? And then I said, well, as being one with the creator, get your ass out there, you know? So I had to think about that. And what brought it to my mind was how we interpret information. You know, how do we interpret information given to us? And how we have to take into consideration what those what the devices are that's doing the transmitting.
Yes. And that's been a big part of what has moved us into wanting to make sure that we deliver what's been delivered onto us, you know, because all we are the devices that have been placed here, you know, to deliver the messages that's been engulfed by thousands before us, and that they have always given us the right to be a part of it. So we're just trying to make sure that we send the right way, you know.
But they say send the right message.
Yes. Yes.
Look, we've been commissioned to send the right message, but yet this dude want to shut down UPS. I mean, the United States Postal Service. You rat sack of
We don't care about that.
Right. Well,
man, we don't care about that.
No, but you know, and you're right. When we have to send the right message. So, you know, you have to be an efficient and effective transmitter, but that also has to be on the back end for the receiver. You know?
Right.
So how does that correlate to where we are now? I mean, it's easy to say, hey, I associate this with the relationship with my lady because we always having bad communication situations. But outside of that context, how do you implement that?
Well, first of all, we need to break down the words so that we can make sure that it's explainable for how natural events work for people that may not understand the simplicity of what we have to do every day. But it happens every day in a logical way so that you can get it. First thing is we need to break down what is a transmitter.
Right, right. All right, give me a sec. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and share this screen real quick so that everybody can kind of follow along with where we're at. You know.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be a great way to introduce this.
right. So for initially, when we're sitting and when we're talking about being a transmitter and receiver, we're really talking about telecommunications. You know, it doesn't
Right.
matter. It doesn't matter if it's, again, when it comes back to being the device, because we are all, at sometimes we say, I'm an instrument of the Lord. Well, guess what? If you're an instrument, you're a device, right?
Right.
We all, I mean, at some way, someplace in our lives, we've said, hey, you know, I'm just an instrument of the Lord. I'm here to, hey, I'm doing my job. So as an instrument, you still have to be able to receive information correctly and transmit it. See, what some people don't realize is when you are first born, when you are first conceived, you are a receiver.
Yes.
When you're first born, you are a receiver. Now,
Simple and clean.
Now, some people would say, "Oh, okay, so once you become a receiver, you've got to do what? You've got to be able to be a transmitter." But let's take it back. So we're talking about telecommunications,
We
right?
need to make that bigger. We need to make that bigger.
Oh, you know what? I've got it on the wrong. Okay, hold on. Give me a quick sec. Dun, 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 dun. Hold on. Let me go back to it. We'll go here. Is that better?
Give me 1 second. It's coming up right now.
All right. So what we're talking about is having.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So when we're talking about telecommunications, we all believe we know what communicate means. So therefore, we just move on that section. But when we're talking about the root word tele, you know, comes from it's a Greek. It's Greek, and it talks about far. So reaching over a distance, tele means to reach over a distance carried out between two remote points. That's why you have telephone. That's why you have telling me something I don't understand. Right? And it's performed,
Right.
right? So, and performed or operating through electronic transmissions. We may say we're human, but we vibrate off of frequency. Therefore, that puts us in the category of machinery. But that's just me.
But that's important because see, we always have to remember we are electrical by nature. We give off a a certain amount of energy daily, you know, and if that energy it either is negative or positive, and
Oh,
that's why they say
positive, some
them that
positive.
are of positive mind,
Yeah.
hey, so it's important. That's why it's important to know what your nature is and to know the nature of those that are around you. Because if you're the only thing positive and everybody else is negative, you might need a new source.
You may need a new source, and that's about as real as that gets. And that's why it's being a transmitter. There's a lot of things that comes along with being an efficient transmitter. First thing you need to make sure. Well, first thing you got to do is just go to the thing. So you talk about a transmitter. Well, okay, a transmitter can be a separate piece of electronic equipment or electrical circuit within another electronic device. I love this. The
Yeah.
purpose of most transmitters is communication of information over a distance. As a transmitter, the purpose of most transmitter is communication of information over a distance. We can't just say distance is I'm in China and you are in Belgium. We could be in the same room and that distance is huge based off of what the discussion is.
And I was going to bring that back to you got to know what the bandwidth is in the travel. Because, just because it's a long way, the bandwidth or the frequency wave could be huge. But then you could be millions and millions of miles away, and we send a very tight bandwidth,
Yeah.
a microwave.
Well, and usually when the way we've been explained bandwidth is this. Oh, your video isn't streaming fast enough? You don't have enough bandwidth. Oh, what is bandwidth? Oh, just the signal isn't wide enough to handle a video file or video transmission. So if you increase your bandwidth, well, what is that? Well, you know what? If you get on the 5G network, your bandwidth will be wider. You still haven't told me, but you've sold me 5G.
Right. And
But
and that's what the problem is that in most relationships.
there's not enough bandwidth, or it's not directed bandwidth. We want the wide. We've been conditioned.
It's not directed bandwidth. Because remember, when they first started the internet, it was wide open. They
Right.
needed to be able to control it. So what they started doing was doing packet control. And that's how we got to where we are now.
Wow. Okay. Oh, yeah. So, knowing that, when we're saying, okay, in order to be an efficient receiver, or I'm sorry, transmitter, and being an efficient transmitter from the beginning is, for one, you got to know your bandwidth. No, I take that back. To be an efficient transmitter, you got to know what information's coming in, what type of I'm sorry, what type of energy is coming in. You don't know if it's going to be video, audio, or whatever. Or my cousin down the hall who keeps sending off this weird thing, like he just robbed a store and he wants to hang out now. You know what I mean? Type of energy. You got to be able to read that. So your bandwidth has to be not, it has to be flexible, only because you know you need to be able to absorb a lot, but you need to also focus on what needs to be absorbed, what needs to be absorbed.
The order of absorption. Because, you know, like we were just, you brought up a good scenario. Your brother who just robbed the store, he runs in and says, yo, man, I've been sitting with you all night. I don't know if that's going to be a good excuse because I just got home. He ain't giving you no explanation on why y'all been together all night. Yours is to know why you need to be here all night.
Right. And you know,
now you can make a better decision.
Well, and that comes down to, okay, so we have our transmitter, we have our receiver, and the receiver is only as good as its transmission point. You know, I can honestly say not everybody's a transmitter and not everyone's a receiver. You're either, sometimes you're just either or, bottom line. But on the transmitter side, one of the things about being a transmitter, I'm gonna bring this up real quick. One of the things that's interesting about being the transmitter is, you know, you've got your components. You know, a component of being a transmitter in high power transmitters. Again, a power supply circuit to transform the input electrical power to higher voltages.
And see, and it's also important that we think about an electronic oscillator circuit to generate the radio frequency. The radio frequency signal is the most modern transmitter, is a crystal oscillator.
But what does that mean? But what does it mean to be an oscillator? In this discussion, we know what it means technically, but when we're talking about when we're talking about being an oscillator, because when I think about an oscillator, I can only think about my fan because it just does this. You know what I mean? It goes back and forth. So incorporating oscillator into being within the realm of being a transmitter and a receiver, how does it fit?
That's where we start having to look at, do we go back and forth with each other in the right way? Because if you look at your fan, just using the analogy of the fan, if the fan went just this way and never went all the way over to the other side, that means something's wrong with some part of the oscillation. So we have to verify that the oscillation is what we need, because if it's only halfway, then that's not a good thing, because there's a part all the way to the right and there's a part all the way to the left. But if it's only going to the middle and flip it back real quick, then there's something wrong, because it's not an even flow. And
Gotcha.
oscillation should be even, because even in communication, it needs to be even. When you're talking to someone, there needs to be an exchange of energy evenly.
A
You know,
constant. It has to be constant and
yes,
steady.
yes, almost rhythmic.
We like rhythm. So, and then what's going to end up happening is that's going to jump to the receiver, right?
Yes,
The person who's going to receive of a gift, or I lean towards definition two. A device receives electronic signals and changes them into something that can be seen, heard, or understood.
that's what's important. Those three phrases right there
A
has
device,
to be has to be in place.
a device
Has to
that
be.
receives signals, electronic signals that changes them into something that can be seen, something that can be heard, and something that can be understood.
If we're not that, then we're not a good source of conversation. You know, the device is just showing us the pattern. But if we're not that, we're not a good source for conversation.
I agree. So, I mean, we know things that make up a good transmitter is going to be power, the information or the data that's coming in, and the frequency in which we transmit.
And then let's break that down into natural. The
To what?
passion which you speak, the let's break it down into a human value. It
Okay.
says something that can be heard, which is the passions of the words that you speak, something that can be seen, that's the emotions that are attached to
Right.
each of those words, and something that can be heard.
No,
The
no, 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 no.
clarity.
Wait. You said, sir, heard, understood is the third one.
I'm sorry, and
Yeah, no,
that's
it's all
what.
good. Understood is, and I love
Because
that.
if
Sorry,
it
go
is
ahead.
crucial that whoever we're talking to, that they understand what we're doing. They got to see in us that there is no lack. They got to hear in us that we understand that they need to hear us, and then we got to be open enough to complete that discussion.
And
So
completing
all
that.
three things.
Sorry, so completing that discussion for others, it means you got to you have to complete the circuit. So if there's a discussion, oh, for instance, let's talk about electrical troubleshooting. Okay. Oh, my speaker's not, my speaker goes in and out, my speaker goes in and out, my speaker goes in and out. There might be a short in the connection. That's why you're not getting it clearly. It's breaking up. Well, what does that mean? When you and your significant other aren't making the connection, there's a short. One of you is not transmitting, the other one is not receiving efficiently because there is a short. Hell, I'll break it down even more. My earphone.
You know what it's simply called?
What's that?
I was gonna say that's the argument, because when you're in the discussion, you're not arguing. But when you're arguing, no one hears what the other person is saying. But when you're in a discussion, oscillation happens in a discussion. Breakdown happens in an argument. Because every point is valid when you start troubleshooting a short circuit.
Right. However, if you are, say you've unawareingly wasn't conscious of it, made your spouse or your mate feel some kind of way, and you had no idea. Because what ended up happening is, one thing that we can't forget is we will attach bad communication with the person across from us. For us personally, if you were in a bad relationship and there were triggers, and then you got into a good relationship and those triggers hit and you did not communicate that, you just flew off the handle and started an argument. However, go back to the beginning, there was a short circuit to where, as the receiver, my transmitter didn't even know that that he used a 3/8 Allen wrench and I only use a blase blah, and I told him that. That spiked something in me. And now I transmit a new energy like, look, man, I told your ass. But I didn't realize was the way I received the information, which came from the initial act. So then I say, hey, I thought I dealt with that. And because that came up and I responded and I transmitted the energy I did, I knew I hadn't fully recovered.
Hey, that's why sometimes when we troubleshoot in our own lives, we overstep or we don't see that should have been an open circuit. We closed that circuit, and soon as that energy hit it opened immediately. We didn't take it out of play, and because we still thought it was necessary. But if you take a circuit out of play in the wiring, then you healed that circuit. Because some circuits don't need all those extra little on-off triggers.
Right. And
that's why it's important to know how to find the book. You got that look on your face.
Well, only because I just want to make sure that, of course there's that open circuit. Even if you remove it out of the line, I wouldn't want it to be perceived as a shortcut to get the end result. Because even the shortcut, that electrical tape will melt.
But see, that's why you troubleshoot the whole line. That circuit may not be necessary because you got one right beside it. So you got an open one and a closed one in the same loop. So this open one triggers this closed one. So that's where it keeps causing problems. The oscillation keeps getting set back before it's time.
So is that what could I associate that with how some people are perceiving the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yes. Yes. How some people are receiving the black militia movement.
Right.
You know, some
They haven't
people
closed the
want,
circuit.
they only want one side of that. They don't mind their militia because that's what's been in play for history. But when we take the same initiative that they've been given the freedoms, you know, we got the same freedom. We have the same freedom to be ourselves as others to be themselves. We're not saying don't be what you want to be, but why should we not be what we want to be? And that's why when we talk to our mate, we have to know that there are some things out of their past that may be affecting our conversation. So we need to listen because now we have to convert ourselves from not only being a receiver, not only being a transmitter, but a transceiver because we need to go back and forth with current data.
Well, you know what? I like that. So check this out. So a transceiver is short for transmitter hyphen receiver.
Yes.
It's a device that both transmits and receives analog or digital signals. The term is used most frequently to describe the component in local area networks. LANs.
I love that. I love that.
It frequently to describe the components in a local area network that actually applies the signals onto the network wire and detects signals passing through it.
See how important it is? See how wiring and that's
how
why
they're wired.
That's why it's so important to know what your conscious and subconscious deal with each other on. Because if you don't know what your subconscious deals with, you don't really truly understand what your conscious deal with.
Right.
Because remember, when that circuit is active, the subconscious is talking to the conscious through the hypnosis of the signals that's been created over time.
This is Mwali Muma'at with the brother that sits in the back of the room with Silverback Gorilla Sessions. Tonight's discussion is interpreting information, being a transistor to the from the transmitter to the transistor. If you could do us a favor and just hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and share, we greatly appreciate that. What we're doing is this is Silverback Gorilla Sessions. We are bringing sessions to you that Black men in the jungles, the concrete jungles of North America, deal with every day, and how we plan on as in 2020 and beyond, how we plan on dealing with this and also getting the recognition that we deserve, dealing with being a silverback in this era. Because remember, we're not lions. We don't live on the plains. We are in the concrete jungles of North America. Therefore, we're silverbacks. So brother that sits in the back of the room, look, man, being a transceiver is a whole other ball game because you literally have to humble you, because so many times we as to being an efficient transmitter, we receive information as a receiver and just say, oh, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. Therefore, we lost the ability to be a receiver. So we take the information as a transmitter, as a receiver. We start switching into transmit mode. But guess what happens? The
We
information.
get receive mode.
Well, not only. Yeah, we're in receive mode. But one of the things that happens is, oh, I just had it. Damn it. Oh, becoming an oscillator is completely out. Our oscillation is broke because if we're just stuck in one position, if we're just stuck in one position, how do we circulate and get the signal out? You know, does it have to do with the bandwidth of our antenna?
And you know what?
Well, not
That's
the bandwidth, but
important
the
for us
signal.
to know especially when we're dealing with our significant others, because we need to make sure that we are taking their signal in at the same time we're sending a signal out. So when we're transceivers, we have to make sure that our partners are on the same level as us. You know, a simple Bible term that most brothers won't get is don't be unequally yoked. Okay?
Yeah.
That sounds so spiritual, but a natural thing about that is we all grew up in a concrete jungle.
Right.
So we all have some branches that we heard that gave us an education, you know, and that education builds in your consciousness, and it sometimes interferes with your subconscious. So you now, or let's say you're in your 20s and you have an event that happens. It may not affect you as over time until your 30s. You know, these brothers that are getting pulled over every day, the law pulling them over and creating a fear in them that now they're always looking over their shoulder. Does my life even matter? We can go back to that simple phrase, Black Lives Matter. Well, we've been receiving that signal saying your life don't matter through everything in the media.
And that's been communicated well.
And even in our own family, we have communicated that sometimes with just simple phrasing that a brother might hear from a single mother that doesn't understand what hurts a man. You know, she's got a boy at home and she says, you just like your father. And first he takes that as a good thing, but then he hears later on the mother discussing what that father is with someone and overhears the negative. And now every time he hears, you just like your father, you just like your dad. Now he hears.
Yeah. Well, but right. And what happens is based off of the information she received as a receiver. Because there could be the possibility that she heard your daddy ain't shit. Or as a collective, we've heard black men ain't shit.
Right. And seeing that's what
so as a collective, we've heard that.
And I was gonna say that, not just your daddy, but all daddies ain't shit.
Right.
So she is constantly hearing this negative about
Or he,
men.
or he, or he,
Yeah, especially he.
or he.
Because when a woman says it to a young boy, a boy's interpretation, because there is no image of himself,
Right, right.
you know, in the neighborhood, there may not be an image of something positive. You know, like I grew up where there was very few positive men around, but I had some powerful women around. I mean, powerful. And sometimes I heard good shit. Hate to say it, stuff hell didn't take her.
Yeah.
But then I heard some not so good stuff about men. But then I had some people that reinforced those images later on in life that changed my perspective.
But
And then I had to take a retrospect of myself
so you
and
know
make
what? So about that story, it's beautiful because even in a silverbacks community, even in the silverbacks community, before he rose to kingdom, the women always supported the move, the motions or the energy of the silverback. So whatever he transmitted, because he knows what he's learned, for one, he could either take what he learned and he can lead his family to destruction because of its arrogance,
right.
or he can transmit the appropriate energy on how to continue to thrive. So there was
He can
never,
nurture
there
the
was
life.
never, there was never a question. You know who's the boss? When the young silverbacks know, you know what, I'm going to get my shot, but they understand the energy. Hey, wait your turn. And when the silverback translates that or transmits that, it's not doing it in an aggressive way. There's only certain spikes of energy that make sure I've held your attention. So,
And that's why it's important to understand pretty much some basic things about what a silverback is. He gonna nurture, he's gonna protect, he's gonna lead, he's gonna teach, and he's gonna make sure that he's nurtured them with life.
right,
Now, the problem
right.
is that we have a lot of gorillas that haven't become silverbacks that are standing in position of leadership.
Well, you know why that is. You got to look at the source. You got to look at the energy that's being transmitted to them. So their frequency level is always not going to be on the highest rung until they're ready to move forward and transmit, at a different velocity. Period. Because right now they may give the appearance of being a transceiver, but that really does not move them into the ultimate phase of being a transducer. So
And you know that
they can take the information, but there's something happening between the connection between the receiver and the transmitter and the receiver. There's something going on to where there's a shift happening in the translation and it gets misconstrued. And as long as it didn't completely shut down, the transmitter is fine. Oh, it's still working.
I'm still sending the signal.
Right. I'm still sending the signal. What they do with it, you know.
And,
Wait,
and,
wait,
and
wait.
that's where some of that arrogance come in, where they better start learning to receive.
Right, but and that also goes to, I mean, think about it. We hear what we hear on CNN and all the news affiliates. When we sitting in the break room, by the time we've heard it and repeat and transmitted it in the break room at work, our emotions, oh, sorry, emotions, you're the reason why the translation got skewed. It's that
So
emotion, because now I don't put a different energy behind it. So when I give it to you, I'm not going to give it to you the way I received it. I'm going to give it to you, right. I'm going to give it to you with a little bit more, that's bullshit. Did you hear what that? And now I've got you amped up.
I remember, and this may be a little throw off, so some brothers may not get this, but I remember being a corner boy in some situations where I was dropped off something and said, go handle this. And I didn't know what go handle this was because I didn't have a good understanding. I knew what my job was,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't know what go handle this really meant sometimes.
Yeah.
Some things was as simple as walk across the street. That was handling it, not being all hyped up. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. My hype, I'm getting hyped. My boys are hyping me up to do something stupid. What what was necessary.
There was a spike. There was a spike of energy between the transmitter and the receiver.
That's why it's important to know when the receive and when you are the receiver, when you are the transmitter, and when you should be transceiving. Because a simple little question would have been, "What do you mean?" Sometimes in a conversation with your girl, your wife, your mate, you should just simply say, "You know what? What do you really mean?" Because
Wow.
what
Yeah.
I'm hearing, and sometimes you got to add those words. What do you mean? Because what I'm hearing,
I agree.
your own emotion or
Right.
where you coming from, and that may not even be what your significant person is talking about. That
Right.
may not even be what your mate is, but your signal, your oscillation level, your bandwidth, your tune.
Oh, are you tuned in? Are you tuned in?
Has been affected by how your
Right.
life has been developed.
Right.
So what your mate could be saying is, baby, on Tuesdays, I like to sit down on Tuesdays outside, listen to the birds, and you ain't never here on Tuesday. And that ain't even what she just said. She says, I like to. What she's actually asking you is, would you like to? And we don't even hear sometimes the simple thing of what she really just asked for is, can you spend some time? You go and you make sure everybody else gets some of your time.
Oh my
I
God.
just want 5 minutes.
Right. Right.
And that's where the importance of knowing when you have stepped into a mature stage of a silverback, that you hear the little branches break before the tree break.
Oh, so you got to go from twigs. You got to go from twigs to branches, from branches to tree.
And if
Well,
if you ain't mature to through those stages, you don't hear what's really going on in the jungle, because the jungle has so many other noises. You know,
right,
like right now, we're watching all of the noises, and we're not hearing some of the big branches before the tree break.
right, right. So
You know, we gotta do.
and that's why people are there. It seems like they're doing weird things. You know, they're doing things that are more reactive than proactive. And so, I mean, when you take them out of reactive, and proactive, like you said, they're hearing one sound and only thinks that sound is associated with that. I'm sorry, they're hearing one noise and think they're associating it with a sound. Right?
That's because there's so many that have never really sat down and know their environment to know when that is and I'm gonna use your phrase that you taught me. Is that a birch tree or is that a elm tree?
Exactly.
They don't know their environment enough to know which is real, because there's a different importance for each tree, because that may not be where you are that's broken.
Right. Right.
And if you are listening to somebody else's branch break, that may not be for you. I'm just saying, brother, because if in this discussion, you know, we're being honest with each other. You know, that branch may not be for you.
Right. And for, you know, and for more of those that need an even for all of our musicians out there, you know the sound of a tom, of a snare, a kick, a djembe, a junjun. For those that are really in tune, you know what frequency they should be metered at. Oh no, when I EQ.
See, now you got to set brothers on a whole nother path, because
I mean, think about it. You know, I mean, if we can get down to the brass tacks about it, you're looking at men and how we break things down into its most comprehensible form. If I have to tell you, remember when you got that 12-band EQ in the back of your Civic Corsica, the hatchback, and you had the house speaker in the back? You had the blow pump on the front, and you knew how I need to adjust it. My 12-band EQ. No, you cannot give me a preset, because that is not how I tune in, is to a preset. I adjust it so I know I can get the right interpretation.
For yourself.
Exactly.
Because see, that's what's also important about understanding an EQ. An EQ is personal. You know, everybody had a radio
Right?
But a brother would tell you, don't touch my EQ.
I got my set.
and,
So,
and the thing was you had your favorite song that when it came on, you didn't care what the EQ was, you would change it because you knew every note of that particular song. And you knew what notes you really wanted to pound in your ride. Because I remember having a Honda Accord with two 12s and a 10. And brothers was looking at me because I had two songs that when brothers would be talking about, yeah, man, my stuff rock. I said, yeah, mine do too. But when I put those two songs on, I changed everything about that EQ because I said, see, now for them, this was perfect. But for this song and me, oh no, I needed the woofer and the subwoofer to work tandemly
yeah.
and so fluent
You
together.
need, wait, hey. Did you need them to oscillate?
Yes, at the right pace, not just oscillate, because I didn't need them to go fast. I needed to slow, because there was something about that beat that I needed it to boom. Because see that those 212, they were pounding, but I needed that 10 to jump out at the right moment because it was the sub.
Right.
The 12 was woof, but it was that sub, that 10 sub. So that when
Well,
brothers heard, and it was how I built the box to
right.
translate that noise.
Right. So at that point, it's no longer noise because it's controlled. It's no
Yes.
longer noise. So what you did, and this is what's critical that we touch on this point, is when you're taking that signal and you're converting that energy from one means to another. So that could be radio, TV. Radio media, TV media. You're having you're having a discussion with your boys. You got Facebook stuff. So when you can take all of that and convert those forms of energy to form your own, that's when you become a transducer. So I convert the energy from one form and put it into another. Usually a transition converts that, huh?
I love that phrase.
You know, I'm taking one form of energy and I'm converting it into another. So again, when you're looking at it from that, all these news outlets and everybody's doing their thing. Well, how am I going to take all of that energy and turn it into another energy? So yeah, go ahead and protest. Everybody's doing their protest. Everybody's doing this and doing that. I've taken that energy. Let me make sure my finances are together. Let me make sure that my household is protected. Let me make sure everybody's getting trained. Let me make sure I'm getting trained. Let me make sure I am qualifying my network. So when it pops up, let me make sure that at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, when I'm doing Silverback Gorilla sessions, I'm making sure that I'm taking all the energy that I'm getting out there, but I'm putting it into another energy so that way we can heal.
And it's so important for us as men to heal what has been surfaced and washed over. Because a lot of us as young boys was taught never show your emotion. And sometimes it's important for your mate to know that you do have emotion and that she can trigger whether you are successful there is a phrase that is so simple, but a lot of people can't get it. It's an old phrase. It says, you can move a bull with a feather if you know where to tickle.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in the chat, please leave comments right now. Look at the link below, leave comments. I need y'all to like, subscribe, and share with your with brothers and sisters that are raising young black men, and brothers that are still reaching their silverback status. And especially during these times, we want to make sure that we are on one accord. There's a lot going on. You've got gun groups, you got Black Lives Matter and all of those ilks, and you've got your family, you've got your household, you've got your friends, you've got your old co-workers who wish they can get back to work, but you the only one there catching the Rona, but whatever. You've got all these folks, and they don't understand what it means to be in the concrete jungle of North America. Many do, but in the concrete jungle, lions don't rule in the jungle. Lions don't rule in the jungle. Silverback gorillas do. And the only thing that's gonna, and the only thing that the Hollywood silverbacks fell victim to was, of course, the white man. But I'm not gonna say no more about that. I mean, it's in every one of them. I don't get it. It's in every single one. King Kong, Kong. Why is the white woman that damn kryptonite back? Man, don't. You know what?
and here's an important thing. We love you, young brothers. We love y'all. We want y'all to know y'all doing a wonderful job. But understand this: a warrior that don't listen to commands from a general is a renegade. And you know what happened to renegades at the end of the day? They die out of foolishness because
or they're
general,
isolated, and that's silverback status. You will get isolated as a renegade if you're not following the tradition. So real quick though, real quick. So again, let's just go back. A transducer is a device that converts energy from one to another. Converts a signal in one form of energy to a signal in another.
I think that was so important that you broke out that last point, because the other thing that we have to realize is that it's important that we protest. It's important that they hear our voice. It's important that they understand we stand united with all this. We are united because the thing is that as guerrilla, warfare is waged as a guerrilla tactic.
Warfare is raged.
And see, we're not just a guerrilla. We are guerrilla. And we stand here in this fight. And we stand ready to make sure that we are part of it. But young warriors, don't rush in where we haven't sent.
Right,
you know,
right.
And we're not the only ones that see. There's others. That's why we said counsel. We
Exactly.
all stand in counsel for you, young warrior. And we're trying to make sure we give you the best information, tactical information. Because if you rush in without the correct information, all you set yourself is It's for gun fodder. You
So,
know, in
you know,
in war, they send in many bodies that are just for gun fodder to see how many bullets the enemy has. That's what they do in mass war. That's what they did in trench warfare. And we no
in trench warfare. Oh,
longer are
yeah.
in trench warfare. We in urban warfare. And in all sincerity, that's a whole different tactic. And we must first give y'all information from a 50th floor view at all times. So let us stay
Because guess what?
connected to you.
Yeah, because as a silverback, we sit on the highest hill so we can watch over. That also raises our antenna level when we're on the highest hill. Antenna level, the higher your antennas are, the more you can transmit and receive, people.
And the higher we sit, the more powerful the message we send.
Exactly.
If we sat on the ground floor, the message is skewed by everything that comes in its context.
You mean noise?
That's what they say.
Noise.
That's why when you're driving in the street, remember the old radios we had in the car, and we be driving, we hear our favorite song, and we be trying to make sure we tuned in while we driving, but then we hit that corner where there was nothing around, and that song was just a bam. It was right there. Wasn't nothing that stopped that. With no frequency barrier.
Right. Yeah, I love that piece, man, because when you are completely tuned in, it is quartz crystal clear. Quartz crystal clear.
And you know, that's the most powerful thing that they ever created for using a signal with quartz.
Look, they thought the dark crystal was just some fabricated story. Y'all better watch again. I'm sorry. Was it one of the most popular watches was the quartz watch?
Quartz. and that's why even today, if you look at your old watch, look how the shape was for your old quartz watch.
Right.
And look what they made the shape of your new little watch. It still has that shape.
That shape, yeah. Hey, they may show you the product, but they never reveal the reference. It's just, look what we got, and nobody questions. As a receiver, we don't say, where did this transmission come from? Let me look at the power source, because it's not connecting with me.
I remember the first time I ever got a brick phone with that big ass antenna.
Man,
the antenna was as long as the phone.
And reception
and now,
was terrible. Reception was terrible.
But you loved having one because you was on the cutting edge.
Yeah. Of radiation. So on that, hey, brother and sis in the back of the room, thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and end the show. So that way, hey, I mean, we both have long days. let's just keep it simple. I've been sipping sideways on two shoes, but you know what? I'm watching mine. I'm watching mine.
As blood stains these prisons like the pyramid glyphs. Guilty or innocent agents of government treat our hoods like picking grounds. Schools to tenements, all sagging uniform as thugs. They represent racial stereotypes, a profile for the oppressed. When you witness genocide every day, you get the hint that the ghettos are cold like a lab experiment. As young women and men street hustle before they 10, graduating from juvenile hall